So, very good evening, friends. We had started studying these development impact bonds, and we have covered up to page number 71, and we were somewhere at page number 72. And we have got the understanding that they are basically impactful in case of large programs. So, these development impact bonds, they are apt for programs whose implementation. Just a minute. Let me make some people as co-host.
नहीं नहीं मैंने तो कल ये कहा था ना मैं अपने देख लेंगे जाने के तो वहाँ
सर
तो जहां से भी डिस्टरबेंस आ रही है ना उनको प्लीज को-होस्ट बना दीजिए।
सर गुड इवनिंग।
हाँ, गुड इवनिंग मैडम।
सर वो 5 मिनट का ओवरव्यू दे देंगे डीआईबी के ऊपर, सर 5 मिनट का।
डेफिनेटली हाँ हाँ। तो बेसिकली लेट अस स्टार्ट somewhere from say 1 or 2 pages earlier. So the social development impact bond structure. So DIB is a structured finance product that has evolved in the development sector to create incentives and align payments for social outcomes. So basically, development impact bonds, and what is the basic principle of this development impact bonds? So the basic principle of a development impact bond structure is that grant is made to an NPO after it delivers on pre-agreed social metrics at pre-agreed costs or rates. So basically, as we know, there are basically all these an NGO or NPO can get money in 3 different modes. Number 1 is the donations, number 2 is the grants, and third is the loans. Similarly, in case of these social enterprises also, which are covered under the social stock exchange concept, they are also receiving the money in these 3 ways only, because there cannot be any fourth way. But the difference here is that some intermediaries have entered into this concept. Suppose some grant has to be made. So for grant, various NPOs may be aggregated, where various funders may be aggregated, and this grant may be put to hold in some escrow account till they manifest some sort of achievement of social impact, which they desire to create. The idea is to encourage the NPOs which are doing good work and to discourage the NPOs which are not doing good. So that is the basic idea. So development impact bond is one such structured finance product. Now, in this case, grant. So this is basically towards grants, and grant is one of the medium of giving money to an NGO. So in this case, in case of development impact bond structure, grant is made to an NPO after it delivers on pre-agreed social metrics at pre-agreed costs or rates. Donor who makes the grant when the social metrics are achieved is termed as outcome funder. So there is a concept of outcome funder. There is a concept of, there was some other funder also. What was that?
Risk funder.
Yes, risk funder. So risk funder could be say a donor who funds the project initially, even when there is no impact created. The NGO has just started the working. The funder, the risk funder comes in between and he funds the project. But this outcome funder will fund only when social impact is visible to him. This is the concept. So given that the outcome funder makes the payment on a post-facto basis, the NPO needs to raise funds to finance its operations. So this funder is known as the risk funder, because in NPO as such, it doesn't have its own funds. Apart from the corpus which the NPO people, those who are trustees, they might have created, they don't have much funds. So there has to be some funding by some organization. And you cannot say that, okay, unless you give us the results, we will not fund you. So risk funder is an stopgap type of arrangement which funds the activities till outcomes are visible. And once outcomes are visible, then outcome funder comes into the picture. So this is the concept. So risk funder not only enables financing of operations on a prepayment basis, but also undertakes the risk of non-delivery of social metrics by the NPO. Now, once an NPO has started working, it may or may not be able to create the desired impact. So the risk funder is at a risk because he undertakes the risk of non-delivery of social metrics. The NPO may vanish with the funds given by the risk funder, but the situation of outcome funder is not so, because outcome funder will release the funds only on this when there is some manifest social impact. So to compensate for this risk, a risk funder typically earns a small return if social metrics are delivered. Normally, as we know, suppose we give a donation, we don't expect anything in return. Suppose you give a donation, you assume your case, you are an individual, you are giving something in charity to NPO, you are not expecting anything except for the tax exemption which the government might give. Similar is the concept here. But risk funder, because in this case, the risk funder will get some sort of return because the social metrics may not be delivered. So to compensate for this risk funder typically earns a small return if the social metrics are delivered, because he is at a risk. So there is some sort of deviation from the normal donations. In normal donations, I think we will be able to understand this concept if we understand the concept of charitable trusts. Because in charitable trust, we are simply giving only. We are not giving, we are not taking anything. If we are giving donation, if we are giving CSR grant, only in case of loan, some recovery is there. That is normally in the case of banks, because NPOs are to fund the large projects, they are taking loans also. But as far as grants are concerned or the individual donations are concerned, they are one-way traffic only. Now the social outcome is measured by an independent third-party evaluator. So there is a third-party evaluator. An intermediary shall be responsible for bringing the actors. So there are various parties. There are funders, outcome funders, risk funders, third-party evaluators who are independent, and then there are risk investors, outcome funders, NPOs, and third-party evaluators. They together make this product of this development impact. So DIBs are governed by tight legal contracts. So basically there are contracts and have strong governance structures in place on reporting, impact measurement, etc., but are currently able to access a limited set of institutional donors and investors. DIBs can be listed for individual projects or for a pool of projects in a particular area. So they may be floated for a certain particular area, like if an NPO is working in Vidarbha region or in drought affected region. So DIBs may be structured accordingly. They may be structured for an individual project or for a pool of projects. And the listing can be done for just risk funding, debt capital, or for outcome funding, grant funding, or for both. So DIBs on social stock exchange, they can bring in new money sources to credible NPOs who are willing to follow disclosure norms. So once a development impact bond is floated, naturally the NPOs who are availing this facility, they will be required to follow the disclosure norms. They will be required to rope in a third-party evaluator who will be independently assessing the social impact created by such NPOs. Further, with CSR acting as outcome funder, will reduce complexity of CSR donations for smaller companies. So DIBs also present an opportunity to channelize risk investor needs to fund credible social projects. So globally, these DIBs are seeing increasing traction. So as per a booking report on what is the size and scope of the impact bond market is observed that 194. So there were 194 impact bonds have been issued so far across 33 countries, and most of these bonds have been issued in developed markets, 177 in UK and US. The total capital deployed in impact bonds exceeds USD 420 million. So there are success stories in India as well. So this is basically the concept of development impact bonds. And we have already understood the concept of outcome funders who will fund the project once the success results are visible, risk investors who will invest initially, and third-party evaluators like on the lines of valuers. Now let us see the story in India. So India is among the few nations that are in the forefront in terms of concerted activities towards the mainstreaming of DIBs, quality education DIB. This is one such bond with a total value of USD 10 million. It focuses on improving literacy and numeracy of 2 lakh children in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Delhi, and has multiple service providers such as KEF, Gyanshala, and SARD. So India is yet to see examples where the government steps in as an outcome funder, in which case both these bonds would be referred to as social impact bonds. So if government is involved, then this will be called as social impact bonds. But if private parties are involved, which is the scenario till now, so these are called development impact bonds. United Kingdom pioneered the social impact bond market, and its government had a central role to play in this. So in UK, the social impact bond model was floated. Further, several outcome funds for multiple impact bonds have been launched in the UK, including the Innovation Fund, which supported 10 SIBs, social impact bonds for education and employment for disadvantaged young people. So there are two types of bonds which we have studied till now: development impact bonds and social impact bonds. Social impact bonds basically floated by the government, and development impact bonds floated by the private sector. In the USA, impact bonds are better known as pay for success projects. So this we have seen that in all the three scenarios, donations, grants, and loans, so pay for success model is there, because the idea is to create a social impact, and they will be paid only when they show that, okay, they are working towards the projects for which they are seeking funds. So here too, federal support has been observed to play an important role. For instance, the Social Impact Partnerships to Pay for Results Act was passed in 2018, and it aims to support outcome-based financing and provide funding from the Treasury for social impact partnerships, including pay for structure projects. Now, how DIBs can benefit from the social stock exchange in India? Now, if development
Sir, just-
impact...
Sir, one question.
Yes, yes,
This
yes.
SIBs which are issued by the government, that is also based on the outcome, social impact outcome? Because DIB तो समझ में आता है because it is a private money, but government जो SIB है वो भी outcome के basis के ऊपर होंगे?
अभी तो हुआ ही नहीं ना, अभी तो हुआ ही नहीं इंडिया में, जब होगा तब देखेंगे.
Okay.
So how DIBs can benefit from the social stock exchange in India? The SSE platform can support social enterprises, both NPOs and FPE, for profit enterprises. So let us understand that if development impact bonds, they are listed on a social stock exchange, what benefit we will be getting? So the social stock exchange platform can support social enterprises, both NPOs and for-profit enterprises, larger donors like CSR contributors and high net worth individuals. Because who gives donations? All these people, donors give the donations, CSR contributors give the donations, and HNIs, they give the donations. So they will be subscribing to these bonds. Philanthropic donors by providing a scaled up avenue to galvanize funding to credible social impact creating opportunities. Therefore, it can help DIBs access a greater spread of CSRs, donors, and risk investors to attract funding for social outcomes. Presently, also, people are giving donations. Those who are capable, those who are blessed, they are giving donations, but that is on individual basis. Now it will be even NPOs may be aggregated, or these donors may be aggregated, because the idea is to work towards the sustainable development goals by and achieve all those goals by 2030. So that is the basic idea, and everything is geared towards that one. So if we float these development impact bonds, so naturally these large donors, CSR contributors, HNIs, they will be able to give funds to credible social impact creating opportunities. So they will also be satisfied that, okay, whatever they are giving is going in right hands, because third party evaluators will be there, intermediaries will be there, who will be acting as a coordinator amongst these various agencies. So that is the idea. Therefore, it can help development impact bond access a greater spread of CSRs, donors, and risk investors to attract funding for social outcomes. While the service providers, that the social enterprises, commit to reporting the requirements on the social stock exchange to signal credibility and performance, companies, particularly smaller companies, trying to solve their CSR deployment strategy can rely on the social stock exchange for less complex ways to invest up to 100% of their funds. Because there are companies who may be doing good work, but they are not getting the required funds. So such agencies may be they may be clubbed with other agencies who are doing good work. So a listing of development impact bonds on the social stock exchange can enable. So basically, these are the, in a sense, the advantages of listing the development impact bonds on the social stock exchange. So a listing of development impact bonds on the social stock exchange can enable showcasing the programs enlisted under each DIB to a more diverse and larger set of funders, including the philanthropic contributors, a potential outcome funders. For example, a high net worth individual donor may be pitched with a proposition that a donation of 50,000 is to be paid only if two low income to skilled youth are placed in jobs with income of over rupees 15,000. You have noticed some NGOs, they are getting funds, say, for cancer patients, and they are saying, okay, that we need funds for treatment of this particular individual. They show you the case history also, the medical history, because all we have seen. But some of those may be doing good work, some may be just cheaters. So that is the basic idea of introducing this concept of social stock exchange, that those who are doing good work, they may be encouraged. Because they may pitch it like this, that okay, you fund for education of a, say, girl child, of, say, a handicapped children, and if you buy this particular bond, you buy one bond, so one bond is, say, worth 1 lakh rupees. You may be getting tax exemption also. But because this will be assessed by third party evaluators, intermediaries will be there who will release the funds only when they are satisfied. So this is the basic concept. So with significant reporting and transparency in the DIB structure, it can help donors get over the apprehension of donating to fraudulent or ineffective service providers. Okay? Because there are some people who, in the guise of NGOs, they are duping people also. So once this structure is in place, DIB structure is in place, it will help donors get over the apprehension of donating to fraudulent or ineffective service providers and make the donation only if the outcomes are achieved. It can help build a lot more trust for the philanthropy market, which is estimated at over 35,000 crores. Also, through the infrastructure created by the social stock exchange, donors can be issued online receipts rather than having to follow up with individual NPOs. In addition, DIBs can also enable investors to be impact investors by acting as risk investors and placing their money with selected service providers and earn a small return on their investment if the service provider delivers on results. So there could be category of risk investors, there could be risk category of outcome funders. Outcome funders will not get anything. Basically, in NGO, if you donate to an NGO, you don't get anything in return. Similar is the concept here, the outcome funders, because you are going to donate, you are willing to donate, you are willing to donate towards you are willing to contribute towards a social cause. So this is the concept here. Now, financing instruments for NPOs. So a not-for-profit organization, it may raise funds on a social stock exchange through, so they may issue zero coupon, zero principal instrument. Zero coupon means no interest, no principal. Because this is what you get when you donate. You don't get anything in return. So zero coupon, zero principal instruments to institutional investors and or non-institutional investors as per SEBI ICDR regulations 2018. Second is donations through mutual fund schemes as specified by SEBI and any other means as specified by SEBI from time to time. So these could be the financing instruments for NPOs. Now let us understand these one by one. But what is zero coupon, zero principal instrument? So zero coupon, zero principal instrument means an instrument issued by a not-for-profit organization which shall be registered with the social stock exchange segment of a recognized stock exchange. So ZCZP shall have zero coupon and no principal payment at maturity. The zero coupon, zero principal shall be issued only for a specific project or activity that are listed under SEBI ICDR regulations. So there are various activities, and those activities are also on the lines of sustainable development goals. Okay? So these projects activities shall be completed within the duration specified in the fundraising document. So thus it differs from the conventional bonds. So it will be, say, for a limited period. So while a conventional bond provides a fixed interest or repayment of the funds raised through the various contractual arrangements, zero coupon, zero principal do not offer such returns, but promise a social return to the funder. Such a promise carries some probability of being defaulted upon non-delivery of the social impact that is promised to be created. Now, suppose a person has contributed towards the zero coupon, zero principal. Now the NPO may or may not work. So there is definitely a risk of non-delivery, but of the promise to be created. So it is essential to recognize that the funder's sense of fulfillment, because what you get, if you donate to some organization, you get a sense of fulfillment that, okay, I work towards lessening some sufferings of this humanity. So that is the basic thing we get. So it is essential to recognize that the funder's sense of fulfillment or disappointment has to do with the creation of social impact instead of any financial return. You are not getting any financial return also, है ना? Basically you are getting a sense of fulfillment. ठीक है, किसी गरीब बच्चे का हमने कुछ इलाज करवा दिया, ये करा दिया, वो करा दिया. So this is the concept. Crutch. If the funder is disappointed, the NPO is liable to lose the funder's trust. Okay? And therefore its donations in the future. So definitely they will earmark that, okay, I will not give to this. So the essential quality of an asset or a security as a promise that can on occasion be defaulted upon, and the default event having consequences for the defaulter's ability to raise funds in the future is retained in the case of zero coupon, zero principal bonds. Suppose an organization comes with this as per the SEBI ICDR regulations, so they will be allowed to raise funds through this instrument. So if they are not able to deliver, then they will not get subscription to these bonds. So ZCZP shall be issued by an NPO for specific social development project. Okay, we are working, this area is drought affected, so we are bringing out these zero coupon, zero principal bonds. Why people will contribute? People will contribute because they are sure that a third party is evaluating their work. There are intermediaries in between. So basically, and they are issued, but still the NPO may or may not deliver at the end because of so many other reasons. So the zero coupon, zero principal, because initially you have to contribute and you are not getting anything in return except the sense of fulfillment. That is the only thing you are getting. So zero coupon, zero principles shall be issued by an NPO for specific social development projects or activities. Such an NPO shall need to show expertise in the targeted areas through social performance of past projects. Like if you issue shares in a company, you showcase your past activities. Maybe the promoters are new to this project, but they might have executed some similar projects in the past also. So similarly, when you issue these zero coupon, zero principal bonds, so you will be showcasing your expertise in the targeted areas through social performance of past projects, which in turn allows investors to gain greater insight into the NPO's activities. So ZCZP shall be listed on the social stock exchange and shall carry a tenure equal to the duration of the project. Suppose this project, okay, they are saying that this area is drought affected and we want to increase the irrigation facilities in this area, and we will be requiring a period of say 3 years for this. Maybe we do this some harvesting or some other projects, drip irrigation, etc. We will be introducing various techniques, and we require a period of 3 years. So these zero coupon, zero principal bonds will also be issued for that much period, because which in turn allows investors to gain greater insight into the NPO's activities.
Sir,
Is that-
whether this is
Yeah.
sir, whether this is zero coupon bond, that contribution eligible for ATG deduction under income tax?
Not normally, yes, because this concept is yet to come. It is more in theory than in practice. So
Okay.
because once these are floated, definitely, because
Okay.
actually we are working on the concept of NGOs. Whenever we are giving a donation, but all NGOs are not exempt. Even now, there are some NGOs who are not registered under Section 80G or 12A. So if you
Yes,
donate
yes,
to such organizations, you do not get any tax exemption. So similar will be the concept here. Those who are registered on social stock exchange, they only will be getting the exemption. So that is the idea.
Okay. Okay. Understood.
So this zero coupon, zero principal shall be issued by an NPO for specific social development projects or activities. Such an NPO shall need to show expertise in the targeted areas through social performance of past projects, which in turn allows investors to gain greater insight into the NPO's activities. So ZPs shall be listed on the social stock exchange and shall carry a tenure equal to the duration of the project that is being funded. At maturity, they shall be written off the investees' books. So as per SEBI ICDR regulations, NPOs shall issue zero coupon, zero principal instruments to public through a public issue. So they might bring a public issue for this. So they have actually combined the concept of shares and donations. So if you understand both the concept of issue of shares and giving of donations, so you will be able to understand this social stock exchange concept. Because they are issuing shares and you are subscribing to shares, you will not get any dividend. The dividend you will be getting will be the sense of fulfillment, the inner peace which you get by donating money. So that is the concept. So it could be through a public issue. This we have seen. Or it could be through social impact funds. So social impact funds registered under SEBI, Alternative Investment Fund regulations through a private issue. So now they are talking of the social impact funds registered under SEBI, Alternative Investment Fund regulations through a private issue. We will go through these regulations also. So these could be either through shares or through some fund. So zero coupon, zero principal instruments are listed on the social stock exchange post their issuances. So while the trading potential for zero coupon, zero principal shall be limited, it is essential to list such securities on the social stock exchange platform to enforce disclosure related requirements such as periodic, because actually there will be less of trading in these, because trading could be that, okay, now I am willing to buy this share or I'm willing to buy this bond from you. So because they have clubbed these two concepts like issue of shares and donations. So that naturally there will be limited takers. But through this concept, because they have related this with issue of shares, so naturally disclosure requirements are already there in case of issue of shares, debentures. So they are taking advantage of those regulations. This is the basic idea. So already SEBI regulations are in place. So now these bonds or these zero coupon, zero principal instruments, they are also subjected to similar disclosure regulations. So the minimum reporting standard, which also mandates reporting on social impact in standardized format, shall make sure that investors channel their funds only to credible and legitimate NPOs. Further, such NPOs can also signal their credibility and legitimacy to investors, funders by choosing to register with information repositories. So we have already understood the concept of information repositories, because information repositories are basically agencies which are say accumulating and disseminating information relating to various NGOs. and they are a credible source of information. And there are already some information repositories which are issuing such information, because donors may be interested. Every donor may not be aware of all the activities which are being done by various NGOs. So there are only two ways of funding. Either you know the organization or you know the people behind them, or you don't know, but still you want to give some charity, do some charity. So if you are not knowing any organization and still you want to give money towards a charitable cause, so then what is the source available? This source is the information repositories. So these information repositories, they accumulate the information and they disseminate the information regarding various NGOs, what is the social impact they are creating through some qualitative and quantitative parameters. And on that basis, the donors are making judgment. Just a minute. So, if see these zero coupon, zero principal instruments, they are listed on the stock exchange, naturally they will be subjected to SEBI regulations. And definitely everyone will be at an advantageous position because credibility will be established. So other conditions relating to issuance of zero coupon, zero principal are given below. Minimum issue size is 1 crore. So there may be questions on this, that what is the minimum size for a zero coupon, zero principal bond? So this is one question, minimum issue size. Minimum application size is 2 lakhs. Minimum subscription, 70% of the funds proposed to be raised through issuance of zero coupon, zero principal instruments. Now, because suppose an organization brings this issue. Now, based on the credibility, so these may or may not be subscribed. So if these will not be subscribed, then there will be a provision to return the money also. So like in case of shares, suppose 90% subscription is not there, then you are required to refund the money. So similarly, the concept here, if 75% are not raised, minimum subscription is 75%. If 75% is not, that means people don't believe on your activities. That is the idea. So there could be questions. 3 questions are possible on this. Minimum issue size 1 crore, minimum application 2 lakhs, and minimum subscription 75%. Now the social impact funds, in which government agencies are also involved.
सर अगर मिनिमम सब्सक्रिप्शन नहीं होती तो पैसा वापस है?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल वापस होगा, वही सेम ही है. मिनिमम सब्सक्रिप्शन का मतलब यही है. Now the social impact funds. Social impact fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in securities, units, or partnership interest of social ventures or securities of social enterprises, and which satisfies the social performance norms laid down by the fund. Now, you know the concept of mutual fund. Similarly, the concept of the social impact fund. In mutual fund, what they are doing? Mutual funds, they are investing in shares of various companies. Similarly, the concept of the social impact fund. So social impact fund means an alternative investment fund. What they will do? They will invest primarily in securities, units, or partnership interest of social ventures. ये कोई लिमिटेड कंपनीज में इन्वेस्ट नहीं करेंगे, ये जो सोशल एंटरप्राइजेज ने जो बॉन्ड्स इशू किए इनमें इन्वेस्ट करेंगे. ठीक है? और सिक्योरिटीज ऑफ सोशल एंटरप्राइजेज and which satisfies the social performance norms laid down by the fund. Like there are 2 types of investments which you can make as an investor. Either you can buy shares or you can buy mutual funds. What mutual funds do? The mutual funds, they invest in various types of companies. Say one mutual fund invests, say, in infrastructure companies. Another invests in health sector. And you can instruct your mutual fund that, okay, I want to buy this particular type of mutual fund units. So similar is the concept here. So there could be social impact funds which may be working in education. So you may be interested that, okay, I want to invest in those funds which are working in education. Some other may be interested in healthcare. Some may be interested in a mix. So that similar is the concept here. So if you understand the concept of mutual funds, similar is the concept of social impact. So social impact fund means an alternative investment fund which invests primarily in securities, units or partnership interests of social ventures or securities of social
Sir,
enterprises. हाँ जी.
सोशल रिटर्न्स का कोई बेंचमार्क होता है कि कुछ है नहीं है?
है ना, impact created.
नहीं ये है ना कि ओनली द सोशल रिटर्न्स इम्पैक्ट तो कर दिया, जो पैसे में जो फिक्स रिटर्न मिलेगी उसका कोई बेंचमार्क होता है? क्योंकि कुछ पे तो है ही है कि फिक्स रिटर्न भी मिलती है।
हाँ,
इसमें भी लिखा
for risk funders, they are saying na 4 to 6% interest is there.
4 to 6%, हाँ ठीक है।
Yes, that is there. वो तो that we have already read ना, risk funders. Outcome funders में तो they get a sense of fulfillment only because you are giving donation basically. है ना, तो उसमें कोई आपको पैसा थोड़ी मिलना है. So social impact funds or schemes of social impact funds issue social units to its investors who have agreed to receive only social returns or benefits and no financial returns against their contribution. Okay? So it is amply clear now. The issuer wishing to raise funds for NPOs shall need to show expertise of the NPOs involved in the targeted area through social performance of past projects undertaken by them in the same area, as well as through differentiators. Like some people, they want to invest with, say, Tata Mutual Fund. Another wants to invest, say, with Birla Mutual Fund. Why? Because of their legacy, because of their expertise. So similar will be the situation here. You will be investing with a social impact fund, which is known for its expertise. Okay. NPOs, while reducing their issue expenses compared to, because in case of zero coupon, zero principal, NGOs themselves are issuing shares. So, but in case of the social impact funds, there are organizations which are floating. So there is an agency. You are not directly buying the shares of a company. You are buying the units of a mutual fund. So similarly here, you are not buying the zero coupon, zero principal instruments, but you are investing through this social impact funds. There are specialized agencies who are investing in such social enterprises. They may be for-profit enterprises, they may be not-for-profit enterprises, but the idea will be that they are intending to create a social impact. The profit motive is not there. So NPOs, while reducing their issue expenses compared to zero coupon, zero principles, will be able to raise funds through social impact funds. It is noteworthy that while the units of social impact funds can be listed, their trading potential in case of 100% grant in or grant out shall be limited. So there is a limited potential of their trading. Like this, in case of zero coupon, zero principal also, their trading potential is limited. The following types of investors are permitted by SEBI through social impact funds. First is the existing social impact funds. They may invest 25% of their investable funds in securities of NPOs registered or listed on a social stock exchange. And then these social impact funds or schemes of social impact funds launched exclusively for registered or listed NPOs may invest 100% of its investable funds in securities of NPOs registered or listed on a social stock exchange. Now, equity or debt.
Sir, what is the difference between the two? One is 25% and one is 100%. I am not able to understand.
No, the first says the two types of investments are envisaged. First is the existing social impact funds. Because there might be some existing social impact funds. So they will invest 25% of their investable funds in securities of NPOs registered or listed on a social. Suppose there is an NPO. That NPO has already issued zero coupon, zero principal instruments. Now they may subscribe to these social impact funds.
Right.
This is one way. So for that, the limit is 25%.
25%.
And another is the social impact funds or schemes of social impact funds launched exclusively for registered or listed NPOs, they may invest 100% of its investable funds in securities of NPOs listed or registered on a social stock exchange. So
That
there
in the
may
new issues. In the
actually,
new issues.
actually, now, yes, because there may be one thing is clear that these social impact funds, they will be investing in only registered or listed NPOs. Now they may launch in exclusive
Scheme.
instrument, exclusive scheme that okay,
Right.
this is the NGO, this is the listed NPO, but now they may invest 100% of its investable funds in securities of NPOs registered or listed on a social stock exchange. There is a company which already has, say, zero coupon, zero principal instruments. So they may invest 100% in that. That is the idea. This is
Right. Right, sir. Right. Exclusive scheme.
Sir,
exclusive.
whether by investing in these funds, sir, whether by investing in these funds, whether a company can claim the mandatory CSR.
Naturally, that will be there. That will be there definitely. But actually, those income tax provisions, they will be introduced through budget only. So as of now, there is nothing. It is just on paper. So this is a concept we are studying basically.
Okay.
As of now, if you see this section 12A or section 80G, so these are not listed there. But because they are yet to come, they are yet to evolve. So the government may introduce, definitely, government will introduce this. They will encourage this, because unless that is done, who will give them the money? Basically,
Yes,
the idea is they are trying to institutionalize the donations. That is the basic crux of the social stock exchange. Earlier also, you were not getting anything except a sense of fulfillment by donating. Now also, you will not be getting anything. You will be getting a sense of fulfillment only, besides the tax exemption. But the idea is to institutionalize, to encourage those who are working seriously. And there may be some smaller organizations, so they want to encourage the smaller organizations also, because then they can aggregate them. So that is the idea. But as of now, there is no provision for aggregation of NPOs. Suppose 10 NPOs join, then they cannot get funds. They cannot say evolve a special purpose vehicle for that in present scenario. But through this concept of social stock exchange, intermediaries will come and they will aggregate the NPOs. They may, through a contracting arrangement, they may pool various NPOs, or they may pool various funders, because there may be a project which requires, say, 10,000 crores. So to fund such large projects, funders may also have to be aggregated. Companies also might have to be aggregated. So there is no concept as such now, because even a company has to individually do its CSR funding. Suppose 10 companies want to join, they cannot. But it will be possible through this concept of social stock. So that is the idea basically.
सर एक मिनट ए दिखाइएगा इसका ए
हाँ जी,
इसका पिछले पन्ने पे ए दिखाइएगा.
हाँ. ए में क्या बोल रहा है? ए में वो बोल रहा है कि जो एग्जिस्टिंग सोशल इम्पैक्ट फंड्स है, भाई ऐसा है ना, फॉरेन कंट्री में तो चल ही रहे हैं ना, वो क्या करेगा? देखो ऐसा है, whenever this legislation will be there, तो वो क्या करेंगे? They will have to award recognition to the existing social impact funds. भाई फॉरेन कंट्रीज में तो कॉन्सेप्ट इज ऑलरेडी देयर ना. तो वो उसमें क्या बोल रहा है? वो बोल रहा है कि जो एग्जिस्टिंग सोशल इम्पैक्ट फंड्स हैं, उनके लिए 25% का क्राइटेरिया है. ठीक है, वो 25% से ज्यादा नहीं कर पा रही.
अच्छा, समझ गए.
ठीक है ना?
हाँ, मतलब जो नया फंडिंग, जो नया सोशल बॉन्ड होंगे, उनका अगर एग्जिस्टिंग है तो 25% इन्वेस्टेबल का, और अगर स्पेशली सेटअप हुई है फॉर पर्टिकुलरली रजिस्टर्ड और लिस्टेड एनपीओ के लिए तो 100%.
100% नहीं. हाँ. अब आगे देखते हैं इक्विटी और डेट. A Section 8 company may choose to raise funds on social stock exchange by issuing equity or डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, अभी क्या कॉन्सेप्ट है, अभी सेक्शन 8 कंपनी क्या करती है, दे में आइदर इशू इक्विटी और डेट. So the existing provisions as applicable for other body corporate shall continue to apply for such issuances. ठीक है. Section 8 company wishing to list equity shall need to show its track record through social performance of past project activities undertaken by them, as well as through differentiators that will allow investors to gain greater insight into the company's activities. ठीक है. So how they are different? So basically they may be allowed to list the equity, but equity किसके लिए? Through social act, for social activities. भाई अभी क्या सेक्शन 8 कंपनी what they are doing? They are issuing either shares or they are issuing either debt, है ना. डेट में क्या होगा? रीपेमेंट होगा. तो सिमिलरली ये जो सेक्शन 8 कंपनीज हैं, those who are working in social impact creation, they will also be allowed to issue either equity or debt. SEBI will continue to explore other instruments that shall be feasible for direct listing on social stock exchange by NPO. So there might come a hybrid instrument also. So the SEBI will continue to explore this. Now funding structures for for-profit enterprises. So this was regarding NGOs and Section 8 companies. Now let us see the funding structure for for-profit enterprises. Because there are some companies who are say working in the social sector, but still they are working on a self-sustainable model, and so they are for-profit enterprises. So existing raising structures as available for corporate shall also be available for for-profit social enterprises. The funding structures discussed for NPOs may be used for funding for-profit enterprises as well. So for-profit enterprises may list their securities on the appropriate existing stock exchange. So debt securities, they may be listed on the main board. Equity securities may be listed on the main board of small and medium enterprises platform, SME platform, or innovators growth platform. So there are two types of platforms, main board और एक ये SME platform है और एक innovators growth platform है. So this is the existing framework for listing of securities, ye as per SEBI regulations. So similar the concept will be used for profit enterprises in social field also. But there is a critical difference between for social enterprises and for profit conventional enterprises. Because there are some for profit conventional enterprises which are aiming at profit motive. But these for profit social enterprises, their basic intent is impact creation. Their basic impact is upliftment of society, working towards sustainable development goals. So there is a difference. And the former will also be performing social impact reporting because these for-profit social enterprises. So what they will be required to do? They will be required to do this social impact reporting also according to the minimum reporting standard. In other words, for-profit enterprises will have to demonstrate that they are in the business of creating positive social impact. This will enable them to access a kind of capital that conventional for-profit enterprises do not have access to. So listing criteria will apply to for-profit enterprises just as they apply for for-profit conventional enterprises. So now they have divided the for-profit enterprises into two types. One is for-profit social enterprise and other is the for-profit conventional enterprise. Okay, who list on the main board of the stock exchange. So financing instruments are as follows: for-profit social enterprise.
सर एक जो डिफरेंस आइडेंटिफाई किया उन्होंने प्रॉफिट लाइक फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में सिर्फ रिपोर्टिंग डिफरेंस ही तो है, मतलब उसमें सोशल इम्पैक्ट रिपोर्टिंग एडिशनल देगा क्योंकि एनुअल रिपोर्ट तो देनी पड़ेंगे उसमें एनुअल
बिल्कुल हाँ राइट, बट दैट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट डिफरेंस.
हाँ सोशल इम्पैक्ट तो देना ही पड़ेगा.
हाँ. और दूसरा ये है कि जो इन्वेस्टर्स हैं उनको भी मिल कुछ नहीं रहा है, दे आर नॉट गेटिंग एनीथिंग एक्सेप्ट अ सेंस ऑफ फुलफिलमेंट.
सोशल सैटिस्फैक्शन है बस. यूज हुआ है.
बिल्कुल. अब ये जो फाइनेंसिंग इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स आर एज फॉलोज. पहला क्या है? ए फॉर सोशल एंटरप्राइज में रेज फंड्स थ्रू इश्यूएंस ऑफ इक्विटी शेयर्स, या तो इक्विटी शेयर्स इशू कर सकते हैं ऑन द मेन बोर्ड, एसएमई प्लेटफॉर्म और इनोवेटर्स ग्रोथ प्लेटफॉर्म, और इक्विटी शेयर्स इशू टू एन अल्टरनेटिव इन्वेस्टमेंट फंड इंक्लूडिंग ए सोशल इम्पैक्ट फंड। ठीक है, वो इन्वेस्टमेंट फंड वाला कॉन्सेप्ट वी हैव ऑलरेडी अंडरस्टूड, वो एक किस्म से दैट इज समथिंग सिमिलर टू म्यूचुअल फंड कॉन्सेप्ट। ठीक है ना, इन विच यू डोंट इन्वेस्ट इन द शेयर्स ऑफ ए कंपनी डायरेक्टली, बट ए म्यूचुअल फंड इज इन्वेस्टिंग ऑन योर बिहाफ। सो सिमिलरली this alternative investment fund, they will be investing in for-profit enterprises or social enterprises on your behalf. Okay. Then issuance of debt securities or any other means as specified by SEBI from time to time. देखो ट्रस्ट में भी क्या होता है, ट्रस्ट में भी you get money either through loan or you get as donation. Donation may be individual donation or CSR grant. Similar is the concept here. So if a for-profit enterprises, they want to issue a debt security, so naturally they will be required to pay. SEBI has further clarified that securities issued by for-profit social enterprises shall be listed and traded under the applicable segments of the stock exchange with an identifier stating that the scrip is that of a for-profit social enterprise. Such for-profit social enterprise shall meet the eligibility criteria for the main board, SME platform or innovators growth platform as applicable. Okay. So there will be an identifier, because actually there might be various by iske liye even they may not float separate stock exchanges. So these securities may be listed on the existing stock exchanges also. So in that case, they will be trying to identify that, okay, this scrip is for a for-profit social enterprise.
This means that is the conventional enterprises. They will be listed only on the main board. But
No. Even
नहीं,
conventional enterprises, they are allowed all these things depending upon their eligibility. Actually, suppose if you are a startup, so then you can list your securities on innovators growth platform, in which you need not issue to public. So that is the basic idea. So there are various concepts in SEBI regulations. So for SEBI regulations, I will give you my earlier recorded video for this IBC classes. So in which I have explained all these concepts on SEBI ICDR regulations.
तो इसमें तो सर ये बोल रहा है ना, चाहे मेल लिस्टिंग है चाहे वो दोनों प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं, तो उसमें सिर्फ आपको आइडेंटिफायर डालना है।
एक पुछल्ला लगा देंगे कि भैया ये जो है ये इसके लिए
टैग लगा देंगे कि भाई ये वाला जो है और सोशल इम्पैक्ट वाला है, स्टोरी खत्म।
बस और कुछ नहीं। तो इक्विटी एंड डेट, ये क्या है, जो फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइजेस विशिंग टू लिस्ट इक्विटी और डेट नीड्स टू शो इट्स track record through social performance that will allow investors to gain greater insight into the for-profit enterprises activities. Naturally, the extent regulations for listing of equity or debt shall also need to be followed. So, जो existing regulations हैं for SEBI ICDR regulations, they have to be followed. But besides that, naturally, they will have to demonstrate their social importance also. If FPEs raise capital through equity or debt, they shall comply with existing stringent norms under securities laws. In addition, they shall also have to comply with additional disclosure norms in respect of social impact. In case of equity, the segment of listing shall also need to be considered, that is startup, okay, IGP, SME or main board. So for-profit enterprises shall list equity on the social stock exchange subject to a set of listing requirements, including operating practices, financial reporting and governance, and social impact reporting. In addition to this, FPEs listing equity or debt shall comply with the disclosure requirements as per the applicable segment, such as main board, SMEs, or innovators growth platform. So, depending upon the segment in which you are getting your securities listed, whether you are listed on the main board or whether you are listed on SME, whether you are listed on IGP, there are separate disclosure requirements as per SEBI regulations. So they will also have to be complied with. And then you will be complying with some social impact reporting also. So that is the thing. So social impact funds, development impact bonds. So these shall typically be issued by an aggregator for a specific target area. The issuer wishing to list such instruments shall need to show the impact areas and other relevant metrics such as impact expected and the expertise of the aggregator and other stakeholders in managing such projects. Okay. Social impact funds issued by alternative investment funds can invest 75% of their investable funds in unlisted securities or partnership interest of social ventures or in units of social ventures or in securities of social enterprises. Because all the securities, they may not be listed. So they are envisaging that some securities may be unlisted also in case of partnership ventures or social ventures. ठीक है, तो इन केस में क्या होगा, so social impact funds issued by alternative investment funds can invest 75% of their investable funds. वहां पर कितना था, 100% था, ठीक है, जो फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइज नहीं है, यहां पर कितना हो गया, 75%. The remaining investable funds to be invested in securities of NPOs with the prior consent of at least 75% of the investors by value of their investment. ठीक है, 75% तो आप क्या है, ये जो सोशल इम्पैक्ट फंड्स हैं, दे कैन इन्वेस्ट, ठीक है, दे कैन इन्वेस्ट वेयर, इन अनलिस्टेड सिक्योरिटीज और पार्टनरशिप इंटरेस्ट ऑफ सोशल वेंचर्स और इन यूनिट्स ऑफ सोशल वेंचर्स. जो रिमेनिंग बचा, एक मिनट, जो रिमेनिंग बचा 25%, उसको कैसे करना है, वो आपको करना है सिक्योरिटीज ऑफ एनपीयूज में. ये फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइजेस है. 75% you can invest in for profit enterprises whether they are listed or not. ठीक है, ये we are talking of social impact funds of for profit enterprises. ठीक है, तो इसमें यहाँ पर 75% कंडीशन है, वहां पर कितनी थी, 100%. इसमें क्या है, 75% तो आप इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं चाहे वो लिस्टेड है अनलिस्टेड है, और जो बाकी बचा 25% रिमेनिंग इन्वेस्टेबल फंड्स to be invested in securities of NPOs with prior consent of at least 75% of the investors by value of their investment. तो अगर बाकी 75% एग्री करते हैं इन वैल्यू, तो उसको वो क्या है, आप उनको कर सकते हो किसमें, NPOs में. So these funds may accept grants which need to be only utilized in the above manner. So there is a restriction. यहाँ पर जो है 75% आपको वहां इन्वेस्ट करना है फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइजेस की, चाहे वो अनलिस्टेड सिक्योरिटीज हैं या सिक्योरिटीज हैं सोशल एंटरप्राइजेस की, ठीक है, और 25% आपको एनपीओज में इन्वेस्ट करना. हाँ बस पूछिए मैडम, क्या पूछ रहे थे आप.
सिर्फ यही छोटा सा क्वेश्चन था. जैसे यहाँ पर लिखा है 75% इन अनलिस्टेड सिक्योरिटीज और पार्टनरशिप इंटरेस्ट, वहाँ जो 100%
दोनों लिखा है, दोनों लिखता है, ये क्या बोलता है,
नहीं,
अनलिस्टेड सिक्योरिटीज और पार्टनरशिप इंटरेस्ट ऑफ सोशल वेंचर्स और इन यूनिट्स ऑफ सोशल वेंचर्स और इन सिक्योरिटीज ऑफ सोशल एंटरप्राइजेस.
तो ये ठीक है. जो हम 100% की बात कर रहे हैं, तो वो जो 100% जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है, वो तो एक पर्टिकुलर जो है लिस्टेड की
प्रोजेक्ट के लिए,
है ना, वो अनलिस्टेड की बात नहीं कर रहा. मैं यही क्लेरिफाई करना चाह रही थी.
बिल्कुल
लिस्टेड की बात कर रहा है, तो ये तो फिर डिफरेंस हो जाएगा ना, कि यहाँ पे अनलिस्टेड है, वहां पे लिस्टेड है 100%.
वो क्या है, देयर वी वर टॉकिंग ऑफ नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट एनपीओ की बात,
नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट. हाँ, क्योंकि अब
यहाँ पर क्या, यहाँ पर क्या है, ये फॉर प्रॉफिट के. तो वी कैन, हम क्या कर सकते हैं, तो एज ए स्टूडेंट वी कैन मेक सम टेबल्स आल्सो, कि भाई इसमें हम टेबल बना करके इसको अंडरस्टैंड करें. अब इसके कुछ क्वेश्चंस देखते हैं, क्या क्वेश्चन इन्होंने दिए हैं, कुछ और क्वेश्चन भी पूछते हैं फिर इसमें से. ये तो क्या करते हैं, 4-4 का इन्होंने पहाड़ा बना रखा है, एक चैप्टर के पीछे 4 क्वेश्चन पूछ ले. अब 10 नंबर का ये चैप्टर है, 10 नंबर पे कम से कम 150 सवाल तो होने चाहिए हमारे पास. सो विच अमंग द फॉलोइंग इज नॉट एन ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ ए सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज. तो इसमें बोलता है नॉट एन ऑब्जेक्टिव, सो इट इज ए नेगेटिवली वर्डेड क्वेश्चन. सो अनलॉकिंग ए लार्ज पूल ऑफ सोशल कैपिटल, लिस्टिंग फंडिंग चैनल्स, encourage blended finance structures, providing a set of procedures and guidelines. So the answer given is only 1 and 3. So this is not the objective, unlocking a large pool of social capital. और तीसरा क्या है, encourage blended finance structures. Second है which among the following constitute stakeholders. तो stakeholders तो सारे ही हैं, trading members भी हैं, non-profit organizations भी हैं और for-profit enterprises भी हैं. और ये जो है इसमें क्या है कि जो social outcome है, it is measured by an independent third-party evaluator. अच्छा, are there any qualifications for third-party evaluator? कुछ उसके लिए third-party evaluator के लिए कुछ qualification है क्या? Who will be a third-party evaluator? तो if we do some say control F, ठीक है, हम क्या करेंगे, कंट्रोल F, ये PDF है हमारे पास, हम क्या करेंगे यहाँ पर थर्ड पार्टी इवेल्युएटर डाल देंगे. Let us see. तो अभी इसके बारे में कुछ बोला नहीं है इन्होंने, थर्ड पार्टी इवेल्युएटर का क्या क्वालिफिकेशन होगा, कुछ है क्या? इज देयर एनीथिंग ऑन दिस?
नहीं,
अभी नहीं आया सर.
हाँ,
It will come in the regulations.
हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. तो अभी हमारे कितने चैप्टर हो गए? हमारे 3 चैप्टर हो गए पूरे, 3 चैप्टर हो गए, है ना. अब चौथा चैप्टर थोड़ा सा स्टार्ट करते हैं, आज 9 बजे तक करते हैं, जितना कवर हो जाएगा, और बाकी फिर जो है अभी करेंगे. ये अगला चैप्टर तो छोटा सा ही है, ज्यादा नहीं है. अब ये वाला चैप्टर क्या कहता है हमारा? चैप्टर 4. चैप्टर 4 बोलता है रजिस्ट्रेशन एंड लिस्टिंग ऑन सोशल. देखो अभी तक इज देयर एनीवन जिसको कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आया? कुछ भी ऐसा कोई है क्या हमारे में से? देयर आर 10 पार्टिसिपेंट्स बिसाइड्स मी. इज देयर एनीवन जो बोलता है जो मुझे कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आया अभी तक? जीरो, कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आया, ऐसा है कोई?
नहीं है सर.
नहीं है ना जी. हाँ,
No.
तो बेसिकली आइडिया क्या है? आइडिया है कि concepts are already there. Concept of NGO, NPO is already there. Concept of shares and debt security is already there. So they are blending these two things. So that is the basic idea of the social stock exchange. We have already seen shares listed on the stock exchanges. So now these shares issued by these social enterprises, they will be also listed. So in addition to the listing requirements, so they will be required to comply with the various reporting standards, social reporting standards. That is all. Bas. Earlier also in case of donations, the donor were not getting anything except a sense of fulfillment. So similar with the concept here. But there may be some venture capital investors, there may be some venture funders, there may be some risk funders who may be encouraged, and they may be given an incentive of a say small percentage of interest, because they are taking the risk, because the activity which is being undertaken by the NPO may not meet its desired objective. So that is the risk they are taking, and they may be encouraged to take that risk. Basically, the idea is to institutionalize the concept of donations, so that only proper NGOs, only those NGOs which are working. But it is not that everybody will be required to get itself listed. That is also not the case. The existing scenario will continue. So only those social enterprises will come here which require large funds. अब आप देखो minimum size ही 1 crore है, and there are NGOs who are getting say 5,000, 10,000 donations. ठीक है ना? तो 1 crore का जहां minimum size है, so some sort of say magnitude they are looking at for this social stock exchange. अभी देखते हैं chapter 4 registration and listing on social stock exchanges. क्या है? Registration process क्या है? So for the purpose of registration, this social stock exchange shall notify the conditions as applicable on social enterprises and as on the date of filing of documents with the SEBI. So this is the first question they may ask. At what stage the conditions will have to be seen? On the date of filing of documents. They may say that, okay, at the time of filing of documents, at the time of getting registration. So this may be one question. Social stock exchanges shall also direct social enterprises to follow the rules and principles framed by the Social Stock Exchange Governing Council. So we have understood the concept of Governing Council also, that Social Stock Exchange Governing Council will be there, and they will be required to follow the rules and principles framed by the Social Stock Exchange Governing Council. Now, eligibility requirements. A social enterprise, this is also very important for questions point of view. A social enterprise shall be eligible for fundraising through the social stock exchange mechanism after fulfillment of below mentioned prior conditions. So these are the prior conditions which have to be met before you are eligible for raising funds. First is, ये कहाँ से डिस्टर्बेंस आ रही है? जहां से आ रही है उनको थोड़ा म्यूट कर दीजिए आप प्लीज। भाई ये जो हम कोस्ट बनाते हैं इसीलिए बनाते हैं ना। तो पहला क्या है? यू हैव टू एस्टेब्लिश द प्राइमेसी इंटेंट ऑफ सोशल इम्पैक्ट। ठीक है, यू हैव टू आइडेंटिफाई इट। भाई जो भी आपका एज पर द 17 सोशल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स हैं कि कौन से गोल के अंदर आप ये काम कर रहे हो। ठीक है, सो यू हैव टू एस्टेब्लिश द प्राइमेसी इंटेंट ऑफ सोशल इम्पैक्ट for being eligible to qualify for onboarding the social stock exchange and access the social stock exchange for fundraising. So you will have to establish that, okay, your intent, the primary intent is social impact. The social enterprise could either engage in the products, services, or programs, or work on research, policy analysis, and development, awareness building, governance, or capacity building. Now let us go to these social development goals. ठीक है, हम दोबारा सोशल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स पे चलते हैं, और सोशल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स पे जाने के बाद में हम क्या देखते हैं इसमें, आप मुझे बताइएगा कि इस पर्टिकुलर सोशल गोल को अटेन करने के लिए क्या प्रोडक्ट वो लॉन्च कर सकते हैं।
सर
इस तरह से भी वो कुछ, हाँ
एक चीज वो बताइए, हमें देखना चाहिए कि अंडर सर्विंग एंड अंडर प्रिविलेज की डेफिनेशन क्या है? क्या बिलो द पॉवर्टी लाइन वाली स्टोरी है कि क्या है? मतलब हाउ डू दे डिफाइन, हाउ यू कैन से दैट इट इज अंडर सर्व्ड?
नहीं ऐसा है, मैं देखिए ऐसा है, एवरीथिंग इज सब्जेक्ट टू रिपोर्टिंग, सोशल इम्पैक्ट रिपोर्टिंग। सोशल इम्पैक्ट रिपोर्टिंग में इफ यू गो टू द सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड्स, वहां पर वो दिया हुआ है, गवर्नमेंट की स्कीम्स हैं ऑलरेडी, गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ ऑलरेडी स्टैटिस्टिक्स, सम स्टैटिस्टिक्स इज अवेलेबल, और उस स्टैटिस्टिक्स के हिसाब से आपको बताना है कि भाई इस रीजन का ये पहला स्टैटिस्टिक था, इस रीजन में पहले इतने बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन थे, या यहाँ की इनकम इतनी थी, वो एवरी डेटा इज अवेलेबल। ठीक है ना, डेटा फॉर
पब्लिशिंग दिस डाटा,
हाँ, डेटा फॉर एवरी रीजन, फॉर एवरी स्टेट इज ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल। नाउ इफ यू आर वर्किंग, तो यू विल बी रिक्वायर्ड टू डेमोन्स्ट्रेट कि भाई व्हाट चेंज यू हैव मेड। ठीक है,
ये नहीं था सर, मैं समझ गई। मैं था कि हाउ डू वी डिफाइन कि अंडर सर्व, क्या वो बीपीएल से है, बिलो द पॉवर्टी लाइन से लिंक हो रहा है?
नहीं,
मेरे ख्याल से
देयर इज नो क्लियर कट आंसर टू दिस एक्चुअली। इसमें क्या है कि वो हमें जितने भी इम्पैक्ट रिपोर्टिंग करनी है ना, दैट इज सब्जेक्ट टू दिस सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड्स। वहां पर अब इसके बाद में हम जो है ना, इस चैप्टर के बाद में, नाउ वी विल अंडरस्टैंड द सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड्स। तो जब हम व्हेन वी अंडरस्टैंड दो 16 सोशल ऑडिट स्टैंडर्ड्स ना, वहां पर सारा कुछ दिया हुआ है कि किस तरह से आपको सर्विस कंडक्ट करने हैं, और कौन कौन से पैरामीटर्स हैं जो आपको फुलफिल करने हैं। हर एक के लिए उन्होंने अलग अलग दिया हुआ है ऑलरेडी। हाँ गिरीश जी, आप कुछ बोलना चाह रहे थे? यस गिरीश जी।
सर मैं कह रहा था, मैंने ये सोचा था कि अंडर सर्व्ड मतलब जहाँ शॉर्टेज है, अंडर प्रिविलेज जहाँ खुद ही हम होते हुए भी नहीं ले पा रहे।
तो अच्छा, अब इसमें पहला पॉइंट क्या है? एस्टेब्लिश द प्राइमेसी ऑफ सोशल इंटेंट, एंड दे से दैट ओके यू कुड एंगेज इन प्रोडक्ट्स और सर्विसेज। नाउ लेट अस गो टू दिस सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स। ठीक है, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स हमारे तो फर्स्ट चैप्टर में थे ना, या सेकंड में थे?
फर्स्ट चैप्टर पेज नंबर 11।
पेज नंबर 11, ओके,
यस सर।
ये अच्छा, अब आप ये बताइए कि you want to create a product, ठीक है? अब no poverty में आपको you want to create some product, क्या product create करोगे आप? भाई ऐसा है, you want to list yourself on a social stock exchange. You are working for this goal number 1, no poverty.
तो उसमें तो कोई भी जैसे जहाँ पे एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन होगा वो हम कर सकते हैं। जैसे आप सिलाई मशीन दे दी आपने रूरल एरिया में, या आपने मतलब और कोई भी हाँ, सिलाई मशीन इज अ गुड एग्जांपल आई थिंक, कि वो खुद ही काम करके देंगे, या कोई वीविंग का और सामान दे दिया, जब बुनकर
कोई भी
सोसाइटी
एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन वाला कुछ भी हम दे
एम्प्लॉयमेंट
सकते
जनरेशन, कोई भी पॉवर्टी खत्म हो जाएगी उससे।
तो ऐसा है कि employment generation will be covered in one or in some other sustainable development goal. Any answer for this?
हैं. There will be other also.
हाँ,
तो-
एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन तो सब बाकी में भी हो सकती है, वो तो सभी में हो सकती है एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन। तो अगर आप इंडस्ट्री में करोगे
नहीं,
तभी
मेरे क्वेश्चन का आंसर दीजिए। You are a social enterprise. You want to get yourself listed on a social stock exchange. You are working for this number 1 goal, no poverty. What is the product or what is the service you can engage in?
नहीं, एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन की हम कोई भी दे सकते हैं ना.
हाँ, या फ्री खाना बांटे, जैसे गवर्नमेंट के जो फ्री मील्स हैं, अब वो भी तो
हंगर हो जाएगा, हंगर
वो हंगर हो जाएगा। ऐसे तो बांट नहीं सकते कि जो पावर्टी पावर्टी तो डिफाइन होती है बिल्कुल चीज से, तो पावर्टी के लिए तो उसको एम्प्लॉय होना ही पड़ेगा ना, ताकि कुछ तो काम करेगा, अदरवाइज कैसे होगी एम्प्लॉयमेंट मतलब।
अच्छा,
थोड़ा
गुड
बहुत
गुड हेल्थ एंड वेलबींग में क्या प्रोडक्ट आप ऑफर कर सकते हो? गुड हेल्थ
इसमें
एंड
तो
वेलबींग
फ्री मेडिकल फैसिलिटीज हैं आपकी, जैसे मोबाइल वैन्स होती हैं रूरल एरिया में जाके, फ्री हेल्थ
Right.
चेकअप्स हैं, वो तो सब है ही है। बहुत सारे लोग चैरिटी करते हैं उसमें।
क्वालिटी एजुकेशन में,
ये
क्वालिटी
तो
एजुकेशन
क्लासेस
में
हैं, जैसे आपकी सक्षम की क्लासेस है, प्रथम की क्लासेस हैं, या एनजीओ की पढ़ाते हैं, ये वो है।
Right. So we have to think, and they may ask question on this. Suppose they ask question out of chapter 4, so they may ask questions like that. That what product? Though they may give a list of 3-4 because it's a multiple choice, so they will give you 3-4 products, and these products may relate to different goals. And say, and you are a social enterprise. You are a social enterprise working in the field of gender equality. So which of the following products you will be offering? तो एक प्रोडक्ट ऐसा दे देंगे जो हंगर से रिलेटेड होगा, एक प्रोडक्ट आपका अफोर्डेबल क्लीन एनर्जी से, इस तरह से कर सकते हैं।
Now we can come to page number 78.
हाँ, 78 पर आ गए हम लोग, ये आ गए ना। हाँ, so we were here. So establish the primacy intent of social impact in the products, services or programs, or work on research, policy analysis and development, awareness building, governance or capacity building. So they may ask question like this: the social enterprise could engage in which of the following activities? Engage either in the products or services or programs, or work on research, policy analysis and development, awareness building, governance or capacity building. Then activities as specified for the social enterprises, they must focus on underserved or underprivileged populations or geographic areas or regions that have recorded lower performance in the development priorities of national or state government. So these are the conditions. The first condition is that you establish the Neelam, please. So the first condition is that you establish the primacy intent of social impact. Second is that you must focus on the underserved or underprivileged populations or geographic areas or regions that have recorded lower performance. So suppose some area is already doing good, so then you may not be allowed to list your securities. So activities as specified, they must focus on the underserved or privileged, underprivileged, or geographical areas or regions that have recorded lower performance in the development priorities of national or state governments. These activities may include rendering service or delivering products to the members belonging to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, people with special needs, elderly, children, at-risk adolescents, migrants, and displaced persons. They may also fall under this category. Third is social enterprise shall have at least 67% of its activities qualifying as eligible activities to the target population. So this is the third condition. First is primacy of social intent. Then second is serving the underserved or underprivileged, and that too in areas which are on the lower priorities of national or state government. But in case of goods or services which belong to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, other backward classes, people with special needs, elderly children, at-risk adolescents, migrants, and displaced persons, they may also fall under this category. For them, this criteria will not work because it's an independent sentence. So if you are working towards upliftment of say scheduled castes, then it may be in any area. Third is social enterprise shall have at least 67% of its activities qualifying as eligible activities to the target population. So this can be ascertained by one or more of the following. So how activity you will judge? 67%. This is another question. They may ask you a question on this. 67% in terms of revenue, in terms of expenditure, in terms of customer base or beneficiaries. So revenue, at least 60%, 67% of the immediately preceding 3 years average revenue should have come from providing the eligible activities to members of the target population. Expenditure, at least 67% of the immediately preceding 3-year average of the social enterprise expenditure has been incurred for providing the eligible activities to members of the target population. So revenue, expenditure. Third is the customer base or beneficiaries. Members of the target population to whom the eligible activities have been provided constitute at least 67% of the immediately preceding 3 years average of the social enterprises customer base beneficiaries. So this could be the third condition. First is primacy of social intent. Second is working for underserved or underprivileged and that too in lower priority areas besides the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, etc. Third is 67% qualifying as eligible activities in terms of revenue, in terms of expenditure, and in terms of customer base or beneficiaries. Provided that the corporate foundations, political or religious organizations or activities, professional or trade associations, infrastructure and housing companies, except affordable housing, shall not be eligible to be identified as a social enterprise. So now they have given some exceptions that who cannot be considered as a social enterprise. Suppose there is a corporate foundation. So we have seen various foundations. Adani Foundation, Reliance Foundation. So these corporate foundations or political or religious organizations or activities, professional or trade associations, infrastructure and housing finance companies, except affordable housing, shall not be eligible to be identified as a. So ye jo hai, these will not be able to be identified as a social enterprise. ये भी एक important चीज है, and they may ask you question. Second is initial qualifying criteria for onboarding. क्या initial criteria? ये तो हमने कुछ main देख लिया. ये चैप्टर बहुत छोटा सा है, इसको हम आज पूरा कर ही देंगे, कुछ ज्यादा नहीं होता. और आप ये देखो ना, ये चैप्टर 4 जो है, आप तो क्या जब पढ़ते टाइम ना मार्क्स देख लिया करो कि भाई जब हम ये चैप्टर 4 पढ़ लेंगे तो कितने मार्क्स हमारे हो जाएंगे. तो मार्क्स से ना थोड़ा सा एनकरेजमेंट मिल जाता पढ़ने के लिए कि भाई ये चैप्टर पढ़ लिया तो हमारे इतने नंबर तो हो गए. चैप्टर 4 आपका 5 मार्क्स का है.
5 months.
इससे पहले वाला जो चैप्टर पढ़ा आपने 10 मार्क्स का था, तो 8 और 4 12 22 27 मार्क्स का हमारा कंप्लीट हो जाएगा जब हम ये 4 चैप्टर कंप्लीट कर लेंगे। तो इनिशियल क्वालिफाइंग क्राइटेरिया फॉर ऑनबोर्डिंग, और हमें करना क्या है, each of us we will try to frame questions on each and every paragraph। हर एक पैराग्राफ में क्वेश्चन बनाओ ताकि कोई भी पैराग्राफ आपका छूटेगा नहीं। Initial qualifying criteria for onboarding: the eligibility requirement for social enterprises to get registered on social stock exchange have been given in point 4.1.1। ठीक, वो हमने दे दिया। सोशल इम्पैक्ट, लोअर प्रायोरिटी एरियाज, ठीक है, 67%। उसके बाद में, ठीक है, डिस्टिंक्शन, अब आपको दोनों को अलग अलग डिस्टिंक्ट कर दो, को आप फॉर प्रॉफिट हो या एनपीओ हो, ठीक है। It is necessary for a NPO to qualify the eligibility requirements as mentioned above for the purpose of registration on social stock exchange, and thereafter it may decide either to list or not for the purpose of raising funds through SSE। ठीक है भाई, सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज के थ्रू जा भी सकते हैं और नहीं भी जा सकते, ठीक है।
पर रजिस्ट्रेशन करवाना पड़ेगा।
हाँ 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 बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। वो क्या बोलता है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे क्या होते हैं भाई, लिस्टिंग तो करवा लेते हैं ना अपने अपने, ये बात है। तो इट इज नेसेसरी फॉर ए नॉट प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन टू क्वालिफाई द एलिजिबिलिटी रिक्वायरमेंट्स एज मेंशन्ड अबव फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑन सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज। इसमें क्या करेंगे, धीरे धीरे ये मैग्नीट्यूड के हिसाब से करा देंगे ना, कि भाई 1000 करोड़ से ज्यादा अगर आपके पास कॉर्पस है तो आप रजिस्ट्रेशन कराना मैंडेटरी है। इस तरह से कर सकते हैं। या फिर ये है कि आपको रिकॉग्निशन ही तभी मिलेगा अगर आप मान लो यूनिवर्सिटी खोलना चाहते हो, सपोज यू वांट टू ओपन ए कॉलेज, तो आपको मैंडेटरीली रजिस्ट्रेशन कराना, बिकॉज दे वांट टू ब्रिंग यू अंडर सम सॉर्ट ऑफ रेगुलेशन। अभी ये सारा जो एनपीओ सेक्टर है सारा अनरेगुलेटेड है, ठीक है ना, इसको दे वांट टू रेगुलेट दिस सेक्टर बेसिकली। तो वो क्या बोल रहा है, तो इट इज नेसेसरी फॉर ए नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन टू क्वालिफाई द एलिजिबिलिटी रिक्वायरमेंट एज मेंशन्ड अबव। ठीक है, वो तीनों कंडीशन बता दी, 67% प्राइवेसी ऑफ सोशल इंटेंट, वर्किंग इन लोअर प्रायोरिटी एरिया। तो अब आइदर दे मे ऑप्ट टू गेट देमसेल्फ लिस्टेड और नॉट लिस्टेड। ठीक है, तो मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन of a not-for-profit organization on a social stock exchange have been specified by the SEBI via its circular dated 19 September। ये 19 September 22 का सर्कुलर है, उसमें दे रखा है इन्होंने कि मिनिमम रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन। ठीक है, however a for-profit enterprise shall not seek registration or listing with social stock exchange unless it is registered as a company और erstwhile provisions of Companies Act। तो इसके लिए कंपनी बनाना जरूरी है फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइज के लिए। एनपीओ कुड बी आइदर ए ट्रस्ट और ए सेक्शन 8 कंपनी और ए सोसाइटी। ठीक है ना भाई, दो तरह से वर्किंग होती है ना, वो हमने दैट वी हैव ऑलरेडी अंडरस्टूड इन चैप्टर 1 and 2। सो एन एनपीओ कुड बी आइदर ए सोसाइटी, ट्रस्ट और ए सेक्शन 8 कंपनी, but a for profit enterprises, in order to get itself listed, it has to be a section 8 company only। ठीक है, तो आपको कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 या कंपनीज एक्ट इसमें रजिस्ट्रेशन कराना जरूरी है। ठीक है, फॉर इश्यूएंस एंड लिस्टिंग ऑफ इक्विटी और डेट सिक्योरिटी। इसका क्या मतलब हुआ, इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि जो दूसरे ट्रस्ट वगैरह हैं वो सेक्शन 8 कंपनी में आए बिना भी अपने आप को रजिस्टर करा सकते हैं। Now onboarding process for NPOs. So NPOs, unlike FPEs, they are not well versed with the rigors and discipline required for raising money through public. Okay? We know that there are various non-profit organizations which are working, but they are not well versed with the rigors and discipline required for raising money through public. The NPOs are required to meet certain mandatory criteria in order to register। ठीक है, NPOs possess a variety of legal structures and they are regulated by a variety of statutory bodies, ठीक है, and legislative acts। Registration shall serve a threefold purpose। ठीक है, so firstly it shall bring interested NPOs onto a common platform। ठीक है, अब ये क्या होगा कि they don't want to list their securities, ठीक है, but they will be required to register। ये रजिस्टर करवा लेंगे अपने आप को। रजिस्ट्रेशन से क्या पर्पस सर्व होगा कि ये जो NPOs हैं, they will also be brought into the common platform. जो legal requirement है, जो SEBI requirement, they will equally apply to them also. ठीक है ना? For the purpose of accessing the social stock exchange. Secondly, it shall inculcate a cultural shift in NPOs and enable transition towards a disclosure-driven fundraising system. Thirdly, it shall provide a means for NPOs and especially smaller NPOs to signal the primacy of social impact and the quality of their governance, transparency, even if they wish to not list any securities at the present moment. Presently, they are not getting themselves registered, but simply by that means they are now they are not issuing any securities, but simply they are getting themselves registered with the social stock exchange. So it will also bring in some sort of governance structure, some sort of corporate discipline, okay, no? And disclosure driven fundraising system, because they will be required to disclose certain things, you know, if they want to raise funds. So it will improve their quality of governance, transparency, etc. So this will enable the NPOs to leverage the reputation value of being registered while raising funds, whether or not they choose to list. And this reputation value will derive from the registered NPOs satisfying the mandatory criteria, which also include annual reporting requirements as described below. So first is the onboarding process for NPOs. Now, first of all, they are talking of NPOs which are either a trust or a society or a Section 8 company. So they say they are not well versed with the rigors and discipline required for raising money through public. So now, but now they will also be required to meet certain mandatory criteria in order to register themselves on a social stock exchange. Because there are different types of legal structures like trust, society, and Section 8 company, and they are regulated by a variety of bodies. So now they will also brought in under some common platform of SEBI, basically. Second is the mandatory qualification criteria. The mandatory criteria for NPO registration is given in table 4.1. It is to be noted that in addition to the legal requirements, mandatory criteria for registration, let us see what is given there. It shall include a set of minimum size as indicated by funds received. So this is very important. So first is the NPO. NPO के बेस में क्या है? Suppose it is an NPO. ठीक है? तो registration certificate should be valid at least for next 12 months at the time of seeking registration with social stock exchange. As we know, in case as per the present guidelines, provisional registration is granted for a period of 3 years in case of new NGOs. So they are saying that if you are an NPO and you are seeking registration on a social stock exchange, then your registration certificate should be valid for at least next 12 months. Suppose you are a society, you are registered under Societies Registration Act. So under Societies Registration Act, normally registration is to be renewed after every 5 years. So this registration should be valid for next 12 months. That is the criteria. And entities must be registered in India as one of the following: charitable trust, registered under the public trust statute of the relevant state, as there are in 5 states: Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, then Maharashtra, Gujarat, and one more state. So there are 5 states in which besides the registration under Indian Trusts Act, so you have to get yourself registered under the relevant statute of the relevant state also. So state registration is also there. So there are 2 types of registration in case of some trusts. Okay? Or it could be a society, or it has to be a Section 8 company. So this registration certificate, wherever you are registered, that should be valid for next 12 months. This is one thing. This is the criteria for mandatory criteria. Second is ownership and control. So there should be a governing document, memorandum of association and articles of association, or trust deed, or bylaws, or constitution. And you have to disclose if NPO is owned and or controlled by the government or private. In case of existing trusts, there are many trusts where there is no written document. But here it is saying that this is the mandatory criteria for NPO registration, that you have to have a governing document. So those trusts which are running say 100 or 150 years, so they are in some cases not having any registration document or governing document. So but here if you want to register yourself with the social stock exchange, you have to have a governing document. Then exemption under Income Tax Act, that is also mandatory. And it should be valid for at least next 12 months. Or, and this is also important, that you should not have any on notice or ongoing scrutiny. So if you are in receipt of some notice or some scrutiny is going on, then you cannot get yourself registered with the social stock exchange. So that is also a criteria. You should have a IT PAN, but here the criteria, you should have a valid IT PAN. Then age of the NPO, normally it is registration certificate, but here it is minimum 3 years. So you have to work for at least 3 years. ठीक है, वो criteria हमने पहले ही देख लिया. Expenditure जो 67% में भी we have seen the criteria of 3 years, है ना? 67% of revenue for the past 3 years, 67% of the expenditure for past 3 years, or 67% benefit to the beneficiaries for past 3 years. Tax deduction, valid ATG certificate, and entity to ensure whether tax deduction is available or not to investors. Then eligible to be social enterprise. So you have to require with the regulation 292E of the ICDR regulations, or as may be specified by the social stock exchange. Minimum fund flows कितना होना चाहिए? Annual spending in the past financial year. ये भी minimum है ना कुछ, ठीक है ना? तो क्या बोलता है? Receipts or payments from audited accounts or fund flow statement must be at least 50 lakhs. 50 लाख से कम वाला जिसका रिसीट और पेमेंट है वो उसमें नहीं आप रजिस्टर करा पाओगे. सो सम सॉर्ट ऑफ मिनिमम, अगर आपकी बहुत ही छोटी एनजीओ है देन यू कैन नॉट गेट योरसेल्फ रजिस्टर्ड विद द सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज. तो आपकी एनुअल जो स्पेंडिंग है दैट मस्ट बी एटलीस्ट 50 lakhs, एंड फंडिंग इन द पास्ट रिसीट्स इस कितने में चाहिए? मस्ट बी एटलीस्ट 10 lakhs. ठीक है. उसके बाद
That means that there are balance should be from own fund, right? That a balance of 40 lakhs.
ये जो फंडिंग
minimum-
है या ये जो मिनिमम 50 lakhs है, ये हर एक इन द पास्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर एक ही साल का है ना, और ये जो 10 लाख का है वो भी पास्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर का है.
हाँ.
मतलब पिछले साल का लिस्टिंग कराएंगे तो पिछले साल का.
हाँ बिल्कुल
अगर
बिल्कुल.
suppose किसी का उससे पिछले में होता है और प्रीसीडिंग में नहीं होता तब वो एलिजिबल नहीं होगा.
ये लिखा है बिल्कुल, जो लिखा है वैसे ही पढ़ना है. There are some conditions for 3 years. Minimum existence 3 years है. 3 years से कम if you are in existence तो you are not eligible. ठीक है ना, वो हमने पढ़ लिया. अब यहाँ पर क्या है कि एनुअल स्पेंडिंग इन दी पास्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर. तो नेचुरली पास्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर में जो एनुअल स्पेंडिंग है दैट मस्ट बी एटलीस्ट 50 lakhs.
वो प्रीसीडिंग की बात होगी ना.
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. हाँ
मतलब क्यूमुलेटिव भी नहीं, एवरेज भी नहीं है, प्रीसीडिंग है.
नहीं बिल्कुल 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 ठीक है जी. हाँ जी. और फंडिंग इन द पास्ट, पास्ट की फंडिंग कितनी होनी चाहिए? मस्ट बी एटलीस्ट 10 lakhs. ठीक है.
ये भी प्रीसीडिंग है ना क्या?
हाँ बिल्कुल. फंडिंग इन द पास्ट, पास्ट लिखा है उसने.
नहीं,
पास्ट
पास्ट में तो कोई भी हो सकता है, तीनों में से कोई भी साल हो सकता है.
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. यस. हाँ इसमें
है ना,
देखो
उसमें स्पेंडिंग 50 लाख पिछले साल की होगी और जो फंडिंग है वो तीनों में से एक साल की, किसी भी एक साल में हो सकती है.
yes, इसमें क्या बोला है मैंने? पास्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर में तो 50 lakhs बोला, और फंडिंग इन द पास्ट दैट मींस सिंस द इंसेप्शन से कम अभी तक फंडिंग जो हो चुकी है वो 10 lakhs हो चुकी है.
वो क्यूमुलेटिव भी हो सकती है, एक
हाँ,
सिंगल भी हो सकती है.
बिल्कुल 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 ठीक है. अब उसके बाद आगे देखते हैं. नाउ राइट्स, ऑब्लिगेशंस एंड डिस्क्लोजर रिक्वायरमेंट्स. अब ये जो ये अपना जो सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज गवर्निंग काउंसिल है, they will lay down the rights and obligations of the NPOs and for-profit enterprises who wish to list with the social stock exchange, and also the nuances of the risk disclosure document. ठीक है, तो इसमें क्या होगा, एक रिस्क डिस्क्लोजर डॉक्यूमेंट होगा. ये जो रिस्क डिस्क्लोजर डॉक्यूमेंट है, इट शैल कंटेन इंपॉर्टेंट इंफॉर्मेशन और रिस्क्स इन्वॉल्व्ड. तो ये क्या करेगा, ये यहाँ पर the RDD shall contain important information on risks involved with the trading on the stock exchange. So all social enterprises are required to read this document and understand the nature of the relationship in which into which they are entering and the extent of their exposure to risk. तो ये कुछ कंडीशंस इन्होंने दे दी. इन कंडीशंस के अलावा ये क्वेश्चन पूछ सकता है इसके ऊपर, एनुअल स्पेंडिंग कितनी होनी चाहिए, 50 लाख 10
सर
लाख.
आया क्वेश्चन 20 से 22 क्वेश्चन
financial
ऐसे आया
year
है टाइमलाइन और ट्रिगर पॉइंट्स पे.
हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. हाँ
सर इसमें इसने पास्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर कर दिया है, प्रीसीडिंग ही हो गया. पास्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर दोनों में 50
हाँ.
और वो 10 में.
हाँ ठीक है ठीक है. हाँ पास पाने चलिए. ठीक है. उसके अलावा जो सोशल गवर्निंग काउंसिल है, ये क्या करेगी, ये दे विल ले डाउन द राइट्स एंड ऑब्लिगेशंस ऑफ द एनपीओज एंड फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइजेस हु विश टू लिस्ट विद द सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज, और इनके लिए एक एंड आल्सो द न्यूएंसेस ऑफ द रिस्क डिस्क्लोजर डॉक्यूमेंट. एक रिस्क डिस्क्लोजर डॉक्यूमेंट रहेगा जिसमें रहेगा कि भाई आप ट्रेडिंग कर रहे हो तो उसमें क्या क्या रिस्क इन्वॉल्व. ठीक है. और उसके बाद में लेट अस सी द की लिस्टिंग गाइडलाइंस. पहला ये है लिस्टिंग फॉर प्रॉफिट सोशल एंटरप्राइजेस एंड एनपीओज. ये की लिस्टिंग गाइडलाइंस है. तो एग्जिस्टिंग जो सेबी रेगुलेशंस हैं, दे सेट द रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर एलिजिबिलिटी एंड गवर्न्स द लिस्टिंग ऑफ इक्विटी एंड डेट सिक्योरिटीज इशूड बाय फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइजेस. Among these regulations include SEBI ICDR regulations, SEBI LODR regulations, and the process flow for onboarding social stock exchange by social enterprises depicted in this figure. ये फिगर में ये पूरा दिया हुआ है. क्या बोलता है ये फिगर में, ये इसमें बोलता है कि जी ये प्रोसेस फ्लो चार्ट है. सबसे पहले ऊपर में क्या आ रहा है आपका, जो एस्टेब्लिश द प्राइमेसी ऑफ सोशल इंटेंट. अगर आप कोई भी आप इशू लाना चाहते हो तो सबसे पहले आपको क्या एस्टेब्लिश करना है कि आपका सोशल इंटेंट है. ठीक है. अब आप दो, यू कुड बी आइदर ऑफ दिस टाइप्स. यू कुड बी आइदर ए नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और ए फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. ठीक है. एनपीओ के केस में आपको क्या है, एनपीओ की रजिस्ट्रेशन गाइडलाइंस है. एनपीओ रजिस्ट्रेशन गाइडलाइंस वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन, है ना, कि भाई रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट इतना वैलिड होना चाहिए, एग्जम्पशन वैलिड होना चाहिए, वैलिड आईटी पैन होना चाहिए. दिस वी हैव सीन. और ये फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए, फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए कोई रजिस्ट्रेशन रिक्वायर्ड नहीं है, बिकॉज दे आर ऑलरेडी सेक्शन 8 कंपनीज ओनली ही आ सकती हैं इसमें. ये कंपनीज एक्ट से ऑलरेडी गवर्नड है. ठीक है. एनपीओज के लिए रजिस्ट्रेशन गाइडलाइंस व्हाई दे हैव गिवन, बिकॉज दे आर गवर्नड बाय डिफरेंट सेट ऑफ रेगुलेशंस एंड डिफरेंट सेट ऑफ एक्ट्स. ठीक है ना. तो उनके लिए इन्होंने क्या किया, टू ब्रिंग देम टू सम कॉमन प्लेटफॉर्म, सो दे हैव इंट्रोड्यूस्ड दिस रजिस्ट्रेशन गाइडलाइंस व्हिच वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन. ठीक है. अब एनपीओज को लिए क्या करना है, जो एग्जिस्टिंग रेगुलेशंस हैं प्लस सोशल परफॉर्मेंस है प्लस डिफरेंशिएटर्स. ठीक है, हाउ दे आर डिफरेंट. और ये हो गया आपका एनपीओ सिक्योरिटी लिस्टिंग, और इधर हो गई आपकी फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइज सिक्योरिटी लिस्टिंग. अब ये क्या क्या आप इसमें फ्लोट कर सकते हो, जीरो कूपन, जीरो प्रिंसिपल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, सोशल इंपैक्ट फंड, म्यूचुअल फंड, इक्विटी या डेट. ठीक है. और फिर इसमें इक्विटी हो गया और आपका सोशल इंपैक्ट फंड हो गया. तो ये चीजें आप इस तरह से इसमें आप फ्लोट कर सकते हो इफ यू आर ए एनपीओ और ए फॉर प्रॉफिट एंटरप्राइज. So for profit enterprises shall list their securities on their appropriate existing boards of stock exchange. भाई देखो ऐसा है, ये जो for profit enterprises हैं, इनकी हो सकता है कोई ऑलरेडी भी सिक्योरिटीज लिस्टेड हो. ठीक है ना. तो दे विल लिस्ट देयर सिक्योरिटीज ऑन देयर अप्रोप्रिएट एग्जिस्टिंग बोर्ड्स ऑफ स्टॉक एक्सचेंज. ठीक है. सपोज कोई आपकी स्टार्टअप है तो उन्होंने स्टार्टअप पे किया हुआ, या इनोवेटर्स ग्रोथ प्लेटफॉर्म पे किया हुआ, या एसएमई प्लेटफॉर्म पे किया हुआ है, तो वो उसी प्लेटफॉर्म पर रजिस्टर कर पाएंगे अपने आप. ठीक है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल डेट सिक्योरिटीज शैल बी लिस्टेड ऑन द मेन बोर्ड्स, while equity securities shall either be listed on the main board or on the SME platform. ठीक है, और इनोवेटर्स ग्रोथ प्लेटफॉर्म. The offer document of the social enterprises for various modes of funds raising shall require disclosure of aspects called differentiators. अब ये जो differentiators क्या है? In case of FPs, the differentiators mentioned in table 4.2 are additional requirements. So अब ये जो differentiators है, they cover aspects such as vision, target segment, strategy, governance, management, operations, finance, compliance, credibility, social impact and risks. ठीक है भाई, how your issue is different, तो differentiator में बोलेगा हमारा vision different है, हमारा target segment different है, strategy is different, governance is different, management is different, इस तरह से. FPs will also be required to provide information in the offer document under various SEBI regulations. बस थोड़ा सा ही बाकी है, उसके बाद में गिरीश जी भी थोड़ा सा अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करेंगे. एज पार्ट ऑफ द प्री लिस्टिंग प्रोसेस द एनपीओस, अभी कोई जाइएगा मत, so it is going to be a very important session. As part of the pre-listing process, the NPO shall provide audited financial statements for the previous 3 years and social impact statement. ठीक है, तो part of pre-listing process में क्या होगा, ये audited financial statement देंगे of the previous 3 years and social impact statements. Additionally, the offer documents for social enterprises shall provide the details under the following heads called differentiators. ये differentiators बनेंगे. क्या क्या differentiators होंगे? Vision, जो that the organization's activities and programs are in line with the aims and objects stated in its constitution. पहला तो ये है, ठीक है, विजन के बारे में. दूसरा आपका टारगेट सेगमेंट. ये टारगेट सेगमेंट क्या बोलता है? टारगेट सेगमेंट में ये है कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैज डिफाइंड इट्स टारगेट सेगमेंट एंड रीच टू अकॉम्प्लिश इट्स प्लान्ड एक्टिविटीज. So clear identification and understanding of the target segment, those affected by the problem and how they are affected. The social enterprise must disclose how its approach intends to improve inclusion for its customers or recipients. Suppose you are working say towards financial inclusion. ठीक है, अच्छा ये फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन जो है ये सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल है कि नहीं है? जी भाई, कोई आपसे पूछ ले कि ये फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन जो है ये सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल है या नहीं है? हाँ जी, एनी आंसर ऑन दिस? भाई 17 की लिस्ट कहाँ दे रखी है, कौन से पेज पर है पुराना जी?
11 नंबर पेज पे है सर.
11 नंबर पे ना, तो फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन है इसमें नहीं है?
It is not directly written.
और डिसेंट वर्क एंड इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ में कवर होगा ये.
सर क्योंकि ये होना तो चाहिए फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन, बिकॉज फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस वगैरह को कवर करता है जो फॉर्मल फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज देते हैं, तो बैंकिंग में भी कवर होना चाहिए ये.
तो
मतलब
ये
indirectly
बेसिकली
cover
क्या है? हाँ, बेसिकली क्या है, ये जितने भी आपको डिफरेंशिएटर्स दिए हुए हैं, like suppose one company is issuing shares, वो at the time of issue of shares what they do, they bring out their either their vision document or prospectus. So this is something similar. ये बताएगा आपको कि भाई what they are doing basically. इसमें ये यही बता रहा है कि टारगेट सेगमेंट क्या है, स्ट्रेटजी कैसे रहेगी, how they will accomplish their vision, गवर्नेंस कैसे रहेगी, जो गवर्निंग बॉडी है, ठीक है ना, डिटेल्स ऑफ इट्स हाईएस्ट गवर्निंग बॉडी कंपोजिशन, डेट्स ऑफ बोर्ड मीटिंग हेल्ड, की आइटम्स कवर्ड, मैनेजमेंट, देन ऑपरेशंस, फाइनेंस, कंप्लायंस, ये सारा चीजें इसके अंदर रहेंगी. क्रेडिबिलिटी क्या है, रजिस्ट्रेशन, ट्रस्ट डीड वगैरह सारी चीजें, सोशल इम्पैक्ट क्या है और रिस्क्स क्या है. The above categories will be used by potential funders or investors to differentiate between the various similar NPOs. तो इस तरह से इनका एक जो इंफॉर्मेशन रिपोजिटरी है They may even bring out a comparative chart कि भाई ये NPO है, इसका ये इस फील्ड में काम कर रही है, ये इस फील्ड में काम कर रही है, एवरीथिंग विल बी ऑनलाइन, तो ऑनलाइन आप सब्सक्राइब कर पाओगे उनके शेयर। For program specific or project specific listings, the NPO shall have to provide a greater level of detail in the listing document about its track record and impact created in the program target segment. The NPO will also be required to publicly display on its website all the information submitted as part of pre-listing and post-listing requirements. So an outline for offer document for zero coupon, zero principal is available in Annexure 3. तो ये इसको देख लेते हैं क्या है, बस ये लास्ट पेज है मेरे हिसाब से। ये इन्होंने एक एग्जांपल दे दिया, ये आउटलाइन है ऑफर डॉक्यूमेंट। सपोज यू आर इशूइंग जीरो कूपन जीरो प्रिंसिपल, तो जनरल दे दिया, डिस्क्लेमर, ठीक है, फिर एडिशनल कंसिडरेशन बाय सोशल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज, तो ये सारा आपने रिस्क फैक्टर्स है, फिर सारी चीजें उन्होंने, कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर क्या है, ऑब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ द इशू, अबाउट द कंपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, है ना, टर्म्स ऑफ इशू क्या रहेंगे, ये सारी चीजें इसके अंदर इन्होंने दे दी हैं। उसके बाद में ये फिर क्वेश्चंस हैं विच यू कैन गो थ्रू। तो अभी हम यहीं पर स्टॉप करते हैं क्योंकि टाइम भी काफी हो चुका है। तो एक काम करते हैं, अभी रिकॉर्डिंग कर देते हैं बंद।